Hello and welcome to the Eating Disorder Therapist podcast. I'm Harriet Frew, eating disorder therapist, here to support you in overcoming disordered eating and finding peace with food. So thank you so much for listening today. So today I want to talk about 20 disordered eating behaviours that are normalised in everyday living in 2025. Okay, so let's dive in. So the pursuit of thinness and body perfection is raging as strongly as ever, with popular podcasts, YouTube, TikTok influencers delivering extreme food regimes weekly, daily, every minute in fact. Countless people using the skinny jab, AI making online beauty standards even more unachievable. It's no wonder that the average human spends many minutes of each day obsessing over food choices and body proportions. Now, you may be listening and think, well, I don't have a full-blown eating disorder. I don't fit neatly into a diagnostic box. However, if you're experiencing high levels of body distress and intense preoccupation around food, then this needs to be taken seriously, as it will be impacting your mood, body image and life. And just remember here that 85% of people with eating disorders are not underweight. Okay, so you may be listening and you may really relate to some of these things. Okay, so here we go. 20 disordered eating behaviours that have become normalised in 2025. Number 1. Over preoccupation with food and the body. Okay, so it's wise to consider health in your food choices as a valuable form of self-care in the balance of overall well-being. I think that's all something we would want. However, if on awakening your immediate thoughts focus on weight and food choices or lack of them, and these thoughts then dominate your day, your attention may be skewed towards obsession and fear. So check in with yourself then, like how much are you thinking about food and body throughout the day? Number 2, anxiety about eating the right foods. Okay, so to feel energized and possess mental clarity, you might be choosing foods that are nutritious, tasty and blood sugar balancing. Again, that is healthy self-care. But if you're rethinking and ruminating over your choices while second-guessing every food morsel with intense judgment and guilt, it's not so beneficial. Okay, number 3, always being on and off a regime. Now, a healthy relationship with food, in my opinion, is not a cage which restricts all freedom. Instead, there is consistency in eating with the body own homeostasis and working with natural hunger and appetite. It's not something you have to kind of think about or control or place undue attention on. Now, alternatively, if you're always on a regime, you might be following restrictive eating regimes which are unsustainable. And then, of course, the pendulum will naturally swing towards rebellion and breaking out of the prison. So then you're either being super healthy and controlling, or you're in chaos and eating everything in sight, which is very discombobulating and stressful for the body. So you're swinging between one regime and another. Number 4, intense emotion around food. Now, I believe that eating should be primarily a peaceful experience. You eat to nourish, feeling a contented satisfaction, and you move on with your day. In contrast, if your food emotions oscillate between intense excitement and decimating guilt, you are riding an emotional roller coaster that permeates through your daily existence. It's exhausting. Number 5, obsessing about weight or leanness or muscularity. Now, working to take care of your body as your treasured home is sensible. And this may involve movement to benefit muscle growth and improve longevity. And it might include considered food choices for feeling good. But getting fixated on numbers and driving your body to meet proportions misaligned with your genetics becomes punishing and unkind. Your inner critic rages as you never feel good enough, and there is always more work to do. Number 6, over-exercising. Now, moving your body is one of the most valuable activities for mental and physical well-being. But when it becomes an obligation that renders you exhausted, frequently injured, and with lowered immunity, it dives into the realms of unhealthy compulsions. Number 7, temptation towards more destructive behaviours. So perhaps you've navigated some weight loss, but it doesn't feel like enough. If you're driven to push your progress one step further, so you find yourself drinking detox teas or taking laxatives to feel empty, you've found yourself wishing to purge even after a meal out, and maybe you've entertained the skinny jab, although your body weight is healthy for your frame. Number 8, filling up on low-calorie foods, Pepsi Max, coffee. So, of course, it's wonderful to enjoy a morning coffee or an ice-cold Coke on a hot summer's day. But if you're consuming volumes of fluid or low-calorie filler foods daily, then you're probably bloatedly full but deeply unsatisfied. You may lean towards caffeinated drinks to override your hunger and drive you through the day. Now, these behaviours wildly disrupt your natural body signals around hunger and fullness. Number 9, Googling private skinny jab stores at midnight or some other hour. The skinny jab is a tool and it does have profound benefits for some people, but it's not a magic cure and it needs careful management with professional support alongside help around behaviour change, eating and movement. Now, if you are a normal, healthy weight for your body, so I'm not talking about BMI here, I'm talking about your body's natural healthy weight, and you find yourself secretly Googling jab options and considering photo manipulation to acquire said jab, then you're likely venturing into disordered eating territories. Now, I work with several clients who have used the skinny jab and then stepped away from it, being catapulted into huge food noise and body distress. So I think it's something we don't want to ignore. I think there's going to be a lot of people that really are struggling in the future that might be on the skinny jab now and are coming off it with all the food noise, all the problems, body image distress, etc. Number 10, obsessing over someone else's food intake. Now, noticing others eating can be a natural part of life. Within a healthy zone, observations are normally stimulated by curiosity, pleasure, and taste of food. You might look at someone's lunch and think, that looks delicious. What's the recipe for that? But when you're comparing your food intake with others and doing mental calorie gymnastics and comparisons, then you are sliding into obsessive territories. Number 11, having a whole language around food, which is detrimental. Now, it's wonderful to describe food as tasty, succulent, juicy, flavoursome, crunchy, delectable, delicious, nutritious, wholesome, and more. It's also helpful to be neutral around food. Food is simply food. But if you're labelling food with intense judgment and guilt-laden language, this will be impacting your well-being. Number 12, thinking that a completely flat stomach is normal. Now, the human torso contains organs and a whole digestive system, hence the stomach has a natural curve and squishiness to it. Radical acceptance of this is profoundly useful. And TikTok might convince you that a flat stomach is the expected natural disposition of most, but it truly isn't. And by holding yourself to this standard, you'll create much misery and dissatisfaction. Number 13, zooming in on other people's eating and weight loss. Now, humans are social creatures. You will notice the changes in your environment, and this might mean observing the body changes of others. But if the meaning of others' weight loss brings you angst and comparison, so amplifying your own body distress, you are likely focusing too much attention here. Number 14, watching what I eat in a day as normal entertainment. So yes to inspiring ideas around recipes and inspiration for meal planning, but endless watching of other people's eating habits, especially ones that verge on the clean extreme, is a guaranteed formula for unhappiness. And there is sadly a whole darker side behind the glossy exterior of perfect eating. And trust me, I see this regularly in the therapy room. Number 15, 1200 kilocalorie meal plans. This amount might nourish a toddler reasonably well. This is not sustainable amount of food for an adult human. So if you're trying to adhere to the 1200 calorie plans beyond the initial honeymoon period, you'll be understandably food obsessed. Of course you will. It's not sustainable. Number 16, feeling obsessed with sugar due to restriction. Now, it's interesting because I find in my work that anyone that has what might be termed as a sugar addiction usually has things going on. Now, as humans, we are naturally drawn to sweet tasting foods. Your hunter-gatherer ancestors would have devoured honey and berries when available. We're very naturally drawn to these foods. But a primal and obsessive drive for sugar is often a sign of dietary restraint. This means not eating enough, eliminating carbs, or delaying eating. So the brain will crave glucose in its purest and most accessible form. So before you start labeling yourself with a sugar addiction, I would just say to yourself, make sure that you're just not eating enough, because that's probably very likely at the root of it. A primal desire for sugar can also be driven just by a lack of self-care around eating. So you might not be consciously restricting, but you may be missing meals, getting over hungry, and then going for that immediate gratification, because again, the brain desires glucose. And I think this can be amplified as well if you are neurodivergent. You can very easily get caught down rabbit holes, special interest, really absorbed in activities. You don't eat for hours, you come up for air and you realize, oh my goodness, I'm starving. And then you'll probably naturally gravitate towards sugar. Number 17, not knowing hunger signals anymore. If you have a healthy relationship with food, you're mostly attuned to your body, listening for hunger and fullness signals from within. But if you've been following external dietary regimes, you won't trust your body. You'll be overly focused on what you should be eating and what the plan recommends. Number 18, being starving or overly full. When in a healthy relationship with food, you don't tend to overeat, at least not regularly, although you might do on a meal out or a special occasion. And you don't tend to undereat either. You prioritise regular eating and managing energy levels. In contrast, an unhealthy relationship with food often involves oscillating between extremes of starvation and overfullness. One state triggers the other in a perpetuating cycle which feels hard to exit from. Number 19, feeling cold, tired, weary, suboptimal as a norm. So if you are self-caring, you work to sustain your body with energy and to pursue vitality and health. If you're in cycles of disordered eating, you may feel suboptimal for much of the time. You're dragging yourself through the days, tired, cold, and exhausted. And number 20, fantasizing about weight loss and the dream life it will create. Now, changing your body can, of course, support you in achieving goals and improving your quality of life. But it is not the ticket to the land of unicorns and magic self-worth, which the diet culture lies will tell you. Okay, if you've got anything to add to my list, please do send me a DM on Instagram at harrietfrew at the eating disorder therapist _ We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoy this podcast, I would be so grateful if you'd follow, rate and review, as it helps it reach so many more listeners. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to sharing another podcast episode with you very soon.